Today, I'm joined by Josh Harrington, Director of IT at Healthcare to You, headquartered in Austin, Texas. Welcome, Josh, and thank you for joining Caspio's podcast. So please, can I ask you to share with everyone a little bit about yourself and your background and your current role at Healthcare to You?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Paul. I appreciate it. And, as far as background goes, in a former life, I was a member of a business unit at a different organization and really kind of got into the technical side of healthcare adjacent businesses. And I think I mentioned this to you when we spoke previously, but really more out of laziness than anything else. I was having all these repetitive tasks that needed to be done on a regular basis and wanted to make that easier on myself. So I got into some rudimentary batch scripting kind of things, and that just sort of continued to evolve and snowball into an opportunity to get into the technical space a few years later. And ever since then, just kind of haven't looked back, and these folks at Healthcare U gave me an opportunity, and I got a chance to really flex some creative muscles in terms of how to streamline and automate and optimize things. Really sort of, it just occurred to me this is going to sound a little bit arrogant, but revolutionize the way that our digital health and the way that we deal with our digital property, whether it be our internal EMR or external communications and all those kinds of things. So it's been a good time and a lot of challenges, but a lot of opportunities to be creative and come up with something new to solve those problems. So it's been fun.
Oh, good. And for those that are not familiar with Healthcare to You, can you explain what your company does?
Absolutely. We are a direct primary care subscription company, essentially. So we are not insurance, but we do provide our clients with affordable access to physicians for things like yearly physical. There's, I believe, 13 disease states that are covered under our direct primary care umbrella. And our patient advocacy team is passionate about making sure that whenever a participant of ours calls in, that they are looked after and made sure that they get to the right place, scheduling appointments with physicians, following up to make sure that appointment went as the participant hoped, and to ensure that they get the proper care that they need, and should they need some more advanced care, assist in getting that care coordinated.
I know, Josh, that Healthcare to You has been a customer of Caspio for over 4 years now, and I know that you took over responsibility, I think going back in 2022. So can you remember when you spoke to your predecessor, what was the challenges Healthcare to You were facing and why they came to Caspio?
Yeah, absolutely. So the choice to go with Caspio as our digital platform was, it was several-fold, really. So it sort of started with the idea that being in a healthcare space, being that we do store, sensitive information, people's protected health information, identifiable information, things of that nature. Obviously, it's top of mind to adhere to rules and regulations associated with HIPAA. Mm-hmm. And rather than purchase, maintain, replace when they get old, servers on site, my predecessor was looking for a cloud solution that would handle the lion's share of that security piece while giving us the flexibility to, number one, be able to work from anywhere, and two, avoid some of that overhead costs for, purchasing and maintaining on-site storage servers, et cetera. So that was the primary driving factor. It also turned out that my predecessor wasn't as experienced in app development, and so a low-code solution was going to work, really well for him as well as the rest of the organization, should there need to be a backup in place and things of that nature. So whenever when I arrived in June of 2020, it really just kind of became second nature. It didn't take me very long at all to become extremely comfortable with the platform. It's extraordinarily user-friendly, and a business power user could dive in and accomplish a lot with little to no technical experience. It's interesting how some of the tools within the platform, as somebody who has had some of that experience in the in the back end technical pieces of how things work, the SQLs of the world and so forth. But working in the platform and being able to, you're putting together something within the Make platform, and in the back of my mind, I'm translating it to, raw SQL statements and, everything that goes with that. Right. So it's been a fun experience to like I mentioned before. I mean, that's one of the things that I like about the platform so much, because it gives you the opportunity to be creative and solve challenges or problems or optimize things in any number of different ways. It gives you a lot of agency to figure those things out in a way that works best for any particular client's situation.
Thank you for sharing that, Josh. What does your actual application do, and who are the end users?
The end users for our primary application are our patient advocacy line. So we've developed our internal EMR around the platform or within the platform, and it allows us to store, archive, manipulate, slice, dice, reporting, basic eligibility information, along with any of the ancillary pieces of, relevant information, what that particular client has purchased from us. If there are any external vendor partners that may need to get involved, it allows us to put all of that together in what we would refer to here internally as our members chart. So those are the primary users, but we've also got several other auxiliary systems that touch on our Caspio instance, primarily, like I mentioned to you before, our CRM and our financial system of record as well. So everything has really begun to coalesce. Those three primary systems of record have begun to coalesce into a unified system of record across all three aspects of our business: sales, operations, and finance.
Yeah. Josh, I'm just thinking, with you taking over responsibility of the application, obviously the Caspio relationship, has the application evolved over the last 4 years from what was initially being looked at to where you are today?
Oh, absolutely. One of the things that I've noticed is the cadence of new features and patches, becoming more regular. And it's been 4 years ago now, but it seems like whenever I first inherited the platform, those things were definitely being worked on, but they were a bit more maybe stretched out. And around 2021, 2022, those new releases began to be just simply regimented. And now it's on a monthly basis. The development team there at Caspio is really coming up with some thoughtful and useful features that have allowed us to be that much more flexible.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is our product team are listening to customers, and they always have done, but I think what they're bringing to market lots of new features. And I know, talking of features, that you're using two of our most important features that a lot of customers using, Webhooks and Directories as well. So can you share with everyone a little bit how you're using Webhooks? I think people will find this of interest.
Yeah, absolutely. So Webhooks have given us the ability to tie those auxiliary systems, CRM and financial system of record, together, because there is data that migrates across those three systems, right? Yeah. So when we get a new client that onboards with us, that information needs to travel down into our operational area. And once that operational ecosystem is propagated with the population of that client, and those records begin to accumulate call notes and appointments made and things of that nature, then those details would need to travel, yet another step further into our financial system of records for reconciliation and invoicing and, accounts payable, accounts receivable. You can kind of, paint with a broad brush all over the organization. So, speaking specifically about webhooks and directories has been great for us because it's been a much more pleasant and structured approach to user access, right? So myself and my developer analysts are the administrators of our Caspio environment, and quite frankly, nobody else has any access to sign in at the back end. But Directories has allowed us to quickly and easily grant access to our internal ERM, to the primary application that we built in the platform, to new employees or employees that may switch from one role to another. It's given us the flexibility and the ease with which we can transition a given employee from one access level to another.
Yeah.
And while that was accomplished before, it wasn't nearly as fleshed out as the Directories feature has become. It's been a joy to use. And then as far as webhooks go, my gosh, as an emerging sort of mature startup into sort of that mid cap company, we're doing things like mobile app application development, things of that nature that will. The advent of webhooks will allow us to synchronize those populations across the Caspio, our Caspio environment, and, for example, a mobile app backend or a financial system of record backend.
Yeah.
Keeping those environments synchronized so that at any given point in time, as regular business processes are executed throughout the month, whether it's invoicing or ensuring that our participants have access to the information that they need in order to easily access care. Webhooks has just really been a joy to use and a huge boost to us, because not only does it allow us to unify our three systems of record, but it also gives any client of Caspio's agency, right? You don't have to buy into an ecosystem of software solutions to accomplish your goals. If you are, I'll make this up as I'm going along. Let's say that you're an organization that really loves to use NetSuite as your financial system of record, but you prefer to use a different product for your CRM, say like it's Zoho.
Yeah.
Having those webhooks in place allows you to really customize your technical stack based on what your preferences are. And if some of those preferences involve, critical components to the way that your business runs, it just gives you that much more agency to set things up the way that you prefer and what works best for your organization.
Yeah. Josh, what are you seeing with these two features? Is it kind of more efficiency savings? Is it return investment from a cost perspective, a combination of both? Love to get your feedback on that.
100% a combination of both. So in years gone by, when we would have inbound records from external vendor partners, we would receive it in that kind of CSV batch format. Mm-hmm. An individual team member would have to review that document, make sure that, any validation checks that need to be done, it would essentially be done by hand in a Excel document. And while if populations are small, then that's okay. But then as you begin to grow and you begin to take on these projects, integration style projects, or even something as simple as releasing a version 2 of your internal application, all of a sudden that time of those technical resources becomes very, very, very scarce, right? It's the one commodity that, in a small to medium sized business, not a lot of the employees have. Everyone's expected to, be running at full capacity at all times, just, to continue to grow and to, really, focus on pushing the business forward and all these kinds of ideas. So, the efficiencies have been through the roof, with the advent specifically of webhooks. It's allowed us to put some systems in place where we ingest data, it is validated, evaluated, loaded into our production database tables. And in the event that there are exceptions or warnings, it's also given us the ability to kick those warnings and exceptions out to the source vendor to say, hey guys, I received 10 records, 8 of them were fine, 2 of them were, one had a critical error that did not load at all, and one was simply a warning that you need to do something about. And it's completely hands off. And so as an IT, resource, it's just really nice to be able to set all that stuff up, test it thoroughly, and then kind of do one of these things. You kind of swipe your hands together and you say, okay, now I'll sit back and just monitor for any of the error handling that I've put in place, and deal with any exceptions that come up. So it's really been something. And the development team there at Caspio did a great job of implementing that feature in such a way that, I mean, once it was released, it was kind of like, hey, clients, just take this and run with it. It just gives you so much freedom to be creative with how you're dealing with your digital property.
Yeah. Josh, we're constantly talking to customers, whether it's an account review, catch up with customers, surveys that we send out as well. So we're continually sharing feedback from customers with our product team, who look at and evaluate the feedback from customers about areas of improvement and those things with the platform, or new features that we should consider. They add them to the roadmap, or they enhance existing features based on feedback from customers. So I'll be interested to hear about, how do you do that internally within your organization in terms of feedback from the users where they want to see enhancements as well?
Well, I brought the example up of releasing a version 2 or 3 or 4 of your internal application. We actually went through that exercise last year and released our internal EMR version 2. To our patient advocacy team. And the way that my team handled that was simply to say, here's your access, go in, use it, and if there's anything at all that is if there's room for improvement, and I'll give you just a really, really simple example. On our members chart, you'll have demographic details of that person and, previous appointments made and notes taken and all these kinds of things, right? Things that we would just make an assumption that would be there. One of the things that we got back from our patient advocacy team was, hey, what would be really nice if we would simply have the age of the person in question displayed right there on the member chart, because when they're contacting a provider, oftentimes they want to know, well, how old is this person?
Yeah.
And rather than ask our staff to do mental date math, which I think we can all probably agree is a little bit challenging at times, simply putting in a calculated field that would tell you explicitly, this is how old this person is. It's those sorts of incremental quality of life improvements that really have given my team a lot of pride to make sure that our application is serving the audience the best that it can.
Yeah.
And happily we did get some pretty tremendous positive feedback, which we're happy with. But we continue to ask our staff to provide us with opportunities to make our application that much better.
Great to hear. Yeah. Just kind of reflecting then over the last 4 years, what are the learnings that you've had over the last 4 years working with Caspio? Is there anything that surprised you?
Nothing that surprised me, because it became obvious to me very quickly that the platform truly is a blank canvas, and it gives you all the tools that you need to be able to spin up an e-commerce store, or in our case, an internal electronic records management system, or a CRM, or any number of these different things that any number of different companies, there are offerings out there from everyone. But, let's say, for example, that you have a very specialized business and you don't want to incur the cost of some of the big guys, say in the CRM world, right?
Yep.
With a little thought and a little time, you can build your own and have it function tailor-made to the purpose that you need it to, tailor-made for your business, tailor-made to your organization, or to a sub-team within your organization. So it's, as far as being surprised by things, I haven't been, because it just became so clear so quickly that this platform, if you need it to, it can be your Swiss Army knife. And I've been very pleasantly surprised with some of the features that have come out. Quality of life improvements, and the development team there at Caspio seems to really be willing to listen to clients, as evidenced by the roadmap and the forum where clients can submit, this is a feature I'd like to see. I've seen several of those that apply to us as well. Ultimately get implemented.
Yeah. Josh, I'm just, if somebody's listening to this podcast or watching the video, and they're considering low code, what advice would you give them to kind of dip their toe in the water?
Oh, that's a great question, Paul. This may not be the greatest answer, because I'm maybe not the right person to ask. I've always been a learn by doing type. And so typically classroom learning, while beneficial, hasn't really solidified lessons for me. So I need a practical problem that I need to solve.
Yeah.
I would suggest that, somebody that's considering the platform, sign up for a free account. I think you guys still have those, right?
Yep.
Sign up for an account. Try it out. See what you can come up with. I'm here to tell those that would be considering the platform that if you go through that exercise, number one, you're going to see that you don't need an instruction manual.
Yeah.
Number two, you're going to find that this platform will give you a dozen different ways to solve whatever problem you're trying to solve. And professional services have been great. We've leveraged those tools, from the Caspio team before, and they were fantastic. Simply one of those concepts that was just eluding me. Didn't see a path between A and B, and I wish I would have looked up the lovely person that helped us out. But by the time she was finished with the putting together the code for me, I looked at it and I'm like, well, of course. But it was just one of those concepts that I was struggling with, and kind of described the problem, and professional services took care of it for us. It was great.
That's great. It's interesting when you describe it that way, Josh, because it's very similar to all the customers I talk to, whether it's on a podcast or just me connecting with customers directly. They usually come to Caspio because they've got a pain point or a problem. And then what they do, they work backwards, looking at the platform and the features and how that's going to help them kind of appease that pain point they've got, or really help them turn things around. So it's interesting the way you describe it, because it's just so very similar to nearly all the customers I talk to on a daily basis. So thank you for sharing that. Josh, thank you for being a Caspio customer for the last 4 years. We really appreciate it. Thank you for taking your time to join us today on today's podcast. And we look forward to many years of success.
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate it. We'll see you in the platform, right?
Sounds good. Thank you, Josh.
All right. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate it.